So we always hear this term, like especially if you are a private land hunter, you'll hear a term people call certain areas of their property sanctuaries, whether it be a middle section or a little section, just a section they don't go into. That's for the deer. And the theory is it gives them a place to go and essentially grow old or become mature, where they won't be bothered. They won't get kicked out of there to go onto the neighbor's property to get shot or this or that,
Mm-hmm. So now I've had a lot of long-winded conversations with people and arguments over sanctuaries.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in the past, I'll be arguing with somebody about something about, like, I'll say, I don't believe in sanctuaries. And they'll be like, oh, I believe in sanctuaries. And I'm like, I would find out that their definition of sanctuary and my definition of sanctuary were two different things.
Yeah.
And really, we do the exact same thing. Because a lot of people say that they have sanctuaries on their property and they don't really. Because a sanctuary means you don't go in there. Do you ever pick up sheds? Do you go in there looking for sheds, or you just leave them in there? If you go in there, it's not a sanctuary. Mm-hmm. So the first thing to get across is what is your definition of a sanctuary? Yeah. I'm asking you, what's your definition?
I wouldn't. I mean, if you were going to ask me, I probably wouldn't consider it if I'm going to go in and look for sheds. I've never really hunted a sanctuary, never had a property where I could have one. But, I would tell you, like, as long as you don't go in there during hunting season and like from, let's say, July till February, that's what I would think. But I take that back. I had hunted one property where a guy had a sanctuary on it, and it was a scenario. I used to film for a guy in high school, and there was this trash buck on the property that he didn't want to shoot, but he didn't want it on there. And he always told me if that buck would walk by while I was filming, he'd let me shoot it with his bow, which I shot his bow before and was fine with it. Anyway, so sure enough, this one evening that buck comes in and I shoot it. And of course it runs, I hit it a little bit back, and it runs into this so-called sanctuary, And man, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know if, like, we tracked that deer up to the edge of that place, and he was like, I really don't want to go in there and kick this big giant buck he was hunting, out of there. And it was like, I thought for a second, I was just a kid. Like, I was probably 16 years old. And, I thought for a second he wasn't going to let me go in there and look for it, But anyways, that was the only time I'd ever actually hunted it, and it wasn't my property or anything. I couldn't hunt there all the time. I just got lucky and that deer walked by. But anyhow, that was definitely a sanctuary. And you're probably right. That guy, I don't think he ever went in there because he never was a big shed hunter anyway. So, I don't ever remember going in there. And I spent a lot of time with him. I mean, I essentially worked for him in the summertime, helping him with stuff too. So,
I believe there's a couple of reasons people have sanctuaries, and people might not like the reasons I give, but number one reason is that they've got too many people hunting their property, and if you hunt all over the place, you wreck the property. So they give the deer a place to hide, right? Number two is that they don't understand bedding and don't understand where deer are, so they just mark off a section and say, don't go in there, right? So to me, I mean, if you take a section and you say don't ever go in there, you kind of make it so that a giant buck can just live there forever and die of old age in there. I mean, your 2-3-year-olds and probably your 4s will come out here and there and stuff. But like we were talking about earlier with really big old bucks, sometimes they'll just stay in those places and never come out. On the other hand, if you've got a good area that's got bedding areas in it, you really don't want to push the envelope. So for me, I go into those spots. Like, there's spots at Dave's where I know that's a bedding area. I go into that block of woods, I'm going to damage it.
Yeah.
But there's a time to move in. There's a time to slip in. And I might slip in there once in a year or might not slip in there at all in a year. But that in itself makes it not a sanctuary.
Yeah.
You know, but most of the time I sit back, I watch, I wait for, you know, maybe I'll get to a point where I can see into the so-called sanctuary and I move in for a hunt. And that's where I was talking to you before, that where I had arguments with guys where they're like, you have to have a sanctuary. And I was like, sanctuary is, you know, you shouldn't have a sanctuary. And then you find out, well, I'll hunt in a sanctuary every now and then, but it's not like I hunt other places. Well, it's the exact same thing I do, but I don't call it a sanctuary, because a sanctuary means you don't hunt in it. But I pretty much don't, you know what I mean? But I slip in when I need to. You know, you gotta know when to make the move. But I also know enough about bedding that I know precisely where the bucks are bedded.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, and you're going into those areas and you don't understand how the wind's going to go and where the deer are and stuff, well, then you can do a lot of damage. But you have to get within a certain distance of that buck, or hope and pray that you're in a tree on that farm someplace the day that buck, one day out of the year or whatever, he comes out and moves around the farm during daylight.
Right. You know? Right. How big of an area at Dave's is that, you know, your sanctuary where your bedding area?
There's two of them. One of them is probably, I want to say, if you took the whole thing, 10 or 15 acres.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bigger. And the other one is probably about 4 acres, 5 acres.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big enough where if you didn't get in there on them, they wouldn't come out of that area, you know?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of times you get a glimpse of something in there and it doesn't come out in daylight. A lot of times.
Yep. We have I don't know. I've often thought about, like, if I was going to not, and I'm awful about not going in because I hunt so aggressively, but you know, on the one piece of private I have, I could probably get away with considering something a sanctuary. You know, I don't even know if it would be, you know, it's so big per se, because it's like a CRP field and all that. Like, I don't know if I'd end up killing anything if I would stay out of there, you know.
Right.
That's what I've always struggled with.
And the thing with me is if you put me on a property, me personally, and there's a buck that lives there all the time and I get the season to hunt there, I will get that buck in front of me.
Yeah.
But if I got a sanctuary, I got a place I can't go, it's just like I have less property.
Yeah.
I hunt all properties that I hunt like a sanctuary. I go in there one hunt, precision move, go in there and set up where I have to do the kill them, in and out one time. That's how I hunt it all. You know, that's how I'm always hunting. So to sit back and sit on a food plot or something just isn't my style, hoping for them to make a mistake.
Yeah. And then something else that I like for me in my particular case is, like, I constantly have dogs running around on that property.
Yep.
You know, almost every week I get a new set of dogs that run through that area. You know, we got people messing around out there. You know, there's a bird hunter that can hunt out there. You know, it's like
some guy tracking a deer, some guy trespassing, dog, coyotes. Coyotes do just as much damage as people. They go running into those bedding areas and hunt deer. And you know, the trick with it is not camping out there.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? You don't go out there and you hunt. You know, when I hunt a spot, even on public land, when I hunt a specific bedding area, I don't think people go into it's overlooked. If I go in there more than twice a year, they go dead. I stopped seeing deer there for years.
Yep.
It's literally precision moves, you know?
Yep. And that's what on our private farm, we're going to do a little bit better job this summer of setting up some preset stands this year in those areas that we have, you know, moved in mobily and killed deer. Mostly because my dad moved back home, or moved back down here by me, so he's going to be hunting more, and then Maddie's hunting a little bit more, and this and that, and it's just kind of, you know, it's a pain for them.
And you know what? And when you talk about the sanctuary thing, I mean, that helps too, because you can.
Yeah.
I've got stands in those key positions that are in what you'd call a sanctuary, or some people would call a sanctuary, right?
Yep.
but I might only hunt it once every other year or something, but it's there.
Right.
I'm not sitting there dangling over the top of a bedded deer trying to set a stand there, because, you know, if you got complete access to the property and you're the only one that hunts there, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
We're not the
trouble
only
is,
one that's
you
hunting.
know, some of the positions you go to, there's several trees you could hunt, and you could either put a stand in every one of them right next to each other,
Yeah.
or you can go into the one that's got the right wind or whatever for the day.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, that is a struggle, and that's something you could always make a move with your mobile setup if you had to.
Right. But there are
Uh,
key positions where there is only one tree,
oh
one
yeah, yeah,
one spot you have to be, you know. And
yeah, for sure.
another thing I do too is on the sides of where these deer hang in this area.
Yep.
There's a couple spots where there's a heavy fence and brush line that you really can't push through too easy. So the deer come in and out from certain ways. So you go to this fence and you go up a tree and you're hanging over, shooting into the so-called sanctuary from the outside without ever stepping
Mm-hmm.
foot in there. And I don't think deer for the most part, put two and two together that on that side of the fence, you're looking into that side. They smell you over there and they're okay, he's over there, you know. I don't think when they walk all the way around that fence and they come to the other side, they can reason that
Right.
that's close to where they are over there. You know what I'm saying?
Right. 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 You think, like for example, your property at Dave's there. Is it okay to go in there and shed hunt and mess around there in the summertime, putting up a stand
Yeah,
and
but
stuff
I
like
don't
that?
want to do it a lot.
Yeah.
So I go in and I do what I need to do, and I get out. So at Dave's, I know the farm inside out, so I don't have to really scout
Right. Right.
per se, right? I know where they're at. I mean, it's been the same for years. It shifts a little. About every 5 years or so, I should take a walk around and just see if something's changed, right? But
Yep.
otherwise, I stay out of there. But for sheds, I'll walk through it. I'll look, especially if there's a big one laying there or hanging there. Sometimes I don't even look for sheds because I'm not really,
Yeah.
honestly,
Right.
into sheds personally.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll go in there and I'll get the intel I need to get, and I get out. And I like to do it in winter because I think in winter they move their bedding so far that a lot of times they're not even in there. So if you wait till the snow melts, you can see the beds and stuff, but the deer aren't even really there because they shift, they migrate out a little bit.
Yeah.
But if they are there, if it's a place where they bed all year, you kick them out in winter, it's a long time for them to settle, and they do get kicked out a few times. But where a guy will make a mistake is he'll go in there, he'll kick them out of there, he'll look at the bedding area, he'll figure some things out, and he'll get an idea of what he wants, and he leaves, and he's like, I should have a path in there. I don't know what tree I should be in. Goes back in later, marks a trail to there, and he tries to figure out a tree, figures out a tree. Then he comes back later and he sets up a stand, cuts some shooting limbs and stuff like that, and lanes. And that kind of damage does way more damage than people think.
Yeah.
Those deer will actually, you know, track you where you went, smell where you've been. And when you do it a couple of days in a row, they'll realize that and they'll stay away from those areas. I've watched where they track me through properties in the snow, follow my footprints, follow them right to my setups, smell my stuff, and it's like, where you put your sticks on and stuff. It's amazing how inept they are at just figuring you out,
Oh yeah.
So you get in, you get to figure out what you need, and you leave. And if I'm going into a place close to bedding, I hate cutting limbs or anything, changing anything.
Yeah.
I will only do what I absolutely have to. And I'll get into areas like on public land where you find somebody's setup and they've got like a swath cut, like where there ain't a tree all the way to where they're going to shoot. And it's like the damage that they do, they don't even realize. They'll see deer, so they don't know that they did damage.
Right.
But seeing deer isn't the key. It's seeing the animal you want to kill.
Yep. That's right. Oh, I remember I had a workshop one year. We went to one of your spots, and someone had prepped a tree for a climber, and they'd like cut down whole trees like with a chainsaw on public land. I mean, I don't know if they use a chainsaw or not, but that's what it looked like. To the point where it was
that spot. They ruined that spot. That was such a good spot. They're still going in there. You know what happened at that spot? Not to change the subject too much, but
that's all right.
A local guy in town, it was an old guy.
Yeah.
Shot a giant 12-pointer. He just stumbled into that area and shot it.
That makes sense.
He told everybody that he shot it there. Now it gets all kinds of pressure. Like he didn't even
That's
hide
funny.
where he shot it. I shot it right on that point there, going in the cattails. You know.
Right.
Okay.
That's funny. Did I also wanted to like talk about like I kind of almost think about like every place I hunt is almost a sanctuary in a way, because if it wasn't, you know, a big buck wouldn't be there. Um, so you know, by definition, almost the way we hunt, we hunt, you know, sanctuaries, and if there
It is,
wasn't a
but it isn't.
sanctuary,
It is, but it isn't. And that's what I was saying.
yeah,
It depends on the guy's definition. The
yeah,
actual definition of the sanctuary is you do not ever go in there.
yeah. But my point is like, if
So in
it,
hunting wise, I can understand a sanctuary is you don't go in there during or around hunting season. But even if you
yeah,
go in winter, you're doing damage.
yeah,
Anytime
sure,
you go in there, you're doing damage. So
yeah,
I'd rather do damage for a hunt, one hunt during the hunting season, and then slip back out than I would, you know,
right,
outside. The trick is though, I mean, if you do kick that deer out of there, real good chance your neighbors shoot it.
yeah,
I can think
yeah,
of a deer that was bedding into this deer was in the 180s. It was bedding in this area of the cattails, pretty much this real close to the area where I shot that real big buck 2 years ago.
mm-hmm.
And there's a couple spots they would bed, and I thought, well, if we push him, he'll bed in this other spot over here on this by this island, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I had somebody. I went over by that island, and I had somebody push around in there. And long story short, I ended up the buck did relocate to me, but I spooked it from there too.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, my neighbor shot it all the way across the marsh. And it's because we pushed him out of there. If we'd have just left him alone, you know, maybe I could have made precision moves and went in there after him. So, I mean, bumping him is not always a good thing, because where he relocates, he might get killed, especially if you bump him before gun season, right?
Right.
So I
Yep.
understand the mentality in it, but I think there comes a time when you have to make a precision move, or you're just going to let that deer die of old age. I mean, you're there to just pick up his sheds every year, or you're there to kill him.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I had it happen. It could have been something I did this year. I had a really big deer on camera at a farm not real familiar with, you know, or an area I'm not real familiar with. And you know, I went in there early season and kind of did a little scouting around with the stand on my back, not knowing I had this deer on camera. You know, I went and pulled the card and ended up having the camera. And after that time I went in there, I never got that deer on camera again. Mm-hmm. Well, at church, like 2 weeks ago, a guy came up to me and he's like, "Oh, look, I killed this deer down there around where you hunt at, you know," and it's probably 2 miles from where I was at where he was hunting at, and he ended up shooting it up. Mm-hmm. There. It was the exact same deer. In fact, I got some sheds from it, and I was going to go give it to him next time I see him. But yeah, it's something that runs through my mind all the time, is like how much damage a guy does. And it's hard, but it's hard to make those right decisions every single time you hunt.
You know, I've seen where you got like a really good, like a little micro island or something where bucks bed right outside of it. And I'd go in there and I'd hunt it precision one time out of a year, occasionally twice if I knew something really big was hanging there. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I'd stay out of it. And I'd always have good bucks in there when I'd go in there.
Right.
And one year you go back there's a trail camera and a tree stand.
Yep.
And a path to it, right?
Yep.
And the guy would hunt there for a couple of years because his first hunt or two were really good.
Yep.
Or something on his camera, right?
Right.
And then the place would just go completely dead. You wouldn't find a rub there or anything when it was a haven, right?
Right.
Then the guy leaves. And it'll take a couple of years for those deer to come back.
Yep. Yep.
It's amazing how long it takes before they trust that area again.
Yep. And it's amazing how hunters will get a picture of a deer and just like lose their mind too. And like just that's all they do now is hunt that spot. You know, it's like that deer was there.
Sooner or later he'll come through. He came through in daylight. Sooner or later he'll come through, which is there's nothing further from the truth. You keep hunting and he'll come through. He'll smell you were there, and then he'll get nocturnal. He'll stay away. And
yeah. I had this is funny. I sold some trail cameras at a yard sale. My uncle and aunt have a big yard sale every year, and I had some old trail cameras. Whatever I was wanting to get rid of them, I got rid of them at this yard sale. And I wasn't there. This old man bought them though, and he in October, I was mowing my grass or something. He saw me outside, and he knew they were mine from the yard sale. And he like pulled in my driveway real quick, and I didn't know. I didn't.
One of them.
Huh? No, I guess I had one of them password coded or something. Where he couldn't get into it. And he pulled in. He goes, "Hey, I bought your trail cameras from your yard sale." And he said, "What's your password on it?" I said, "I can't use the one because it's a password code." And I told him, and he's like, "Yeah, if I got that one camera I bought off you, it works real good. I got it out, and I got a big buck on there." He goes, "I got to get this other one out so I can get another picture of him." I'm like, "Well, there you go. Go ahead and go get some more pictures of him." It was funny.
Yeah, some people get so addicted to those trail cameras.
Yeah,
that they got to make up their mind whether they want to hang portraits of the deer on their walls or they want to hang the head on the wall.
Yep. Yeah, and this guy, he was just, you could tell he was super obsessed with that deer, but in a bad way, where he was just like, he's trying to spread trail cameras out, to get pictures of it. And I don't,
that's the way people hunt nowadays. I mean, you see these guys, they just throw out 10 trail cameras and watch the trail cameras and wait for one to take.
Yeah, these weren't cell cameras though; these were just regular SD card cameras. So I'm sure he was, checking them a whole bunch and stuff.
Hey everybody, if you like the channel, make sure you subscribe right here. And if you like the clips, I got 2 more options for you. 2 options right here. Subscribe right here. See you guys.